Congratulations, you finished the course. This course was huge, so you should feel really proud of yourself of getting through all this material and filling up your head with all these different technologies and what they can do. We've covered over 25 different Hadoop-related technologies, or more generally, technologies that run on distributed computing. And these are very important components to understand and have in your tool chest as you're designing these sorts of systems in the future. These are highly valuable skills. This is not easy stuff to understand, and that's why these jobs pay the big bucks. So I really hope some of you find this course useful enough to kick off your career in this field, because you'll find it highly rewarding, both intellectually and financially. Now, you may be asking yourself, how do I learn more about some of these systems? This course has been rather broad in its scope, so we've gone for breadth over depth. We've gotten our hands dirty with a lot of these technologies, but we haven't really dug into the details and really doing more complex operations with some of them. Don't fear, there are many ways of learning more about these systems that we've talked about. So in preparing this course, I actually read through this stack of books, believe it or not. There's a lot of great books on these subjects out there, so just go out and find the books by O'Reilly are usually a safe bet. And I've read all of these from cover to cover, just to get myself up to speed and make sure that I'm teaching you comprehensive and complete and current information about these topics. So if you are interested more in a specific technology, I encourage you to go out and buy a book on it. Make sure it's a current edition, because these things do change quickly, and that is a real problem. So pay attention to how old these books are. For example, my book that I got here on MongoDB was for an earlier version of MongoDB, and after I read the whole thing and started playing around with the new version, I realized it didn't work at all. So at that point, all you can really do is go back to the website and learn more about it. And that's another important resource for you as well, the websites for these technologies. So most of the things we've talked about are Apache Software Foundation managed, and usually you can just go to technologyname.apache.org to find the website about it. And usually they're pretty good. So for example, spark.apache.org would be where you would go for the latest version of Spark and to read more about it. And the documentation provided on those websites are usually really quite good. And they often include very useful and more in-depth examples and samples that you can look at to play with and get more of a visceral feel of how these technologies work. So I highly recommend visiting the websites for these technologies. It will have the most up-to-date information and oftentimes very good documentation, and also links to community resources. So things like mailing lists where you can ask other users of these technologies specific questions if you get stuck. Stack Exchange, also a good resource for these sorts of technologies. Odds are if you have a question and you punch it into Google, it'll pull up a response on Stack Exchange from someone else who's had the same question or the same issue. Most of these technologies are widely used in industry today, so you're probably not the first person to encounter a problem or a question when it comes to them. So those are resources at your disposal for learning more. And as for getting experience in the field, as you know, just learning about a technology or taking a course on it is not enough, usually, to get a job in the field. And this is a particularly tricky thing in the field of distributed systems and Hadoop, because it's not the sort of thing you can just go off and do on your own, or someone's not going to trust to hire you as a freelancer initially if you haven't actually done this before. So there's really a barrier to entry there that's a little bit tough to overcome. Now, if you do have the right connections to actually do some freelance work, maybe at a very low rate initially even, just to get some real-world experience on real-world systems, by all means, do it. That's the best way to build up your resume and actually show that you can do this stuff for real in practice and not just talk about it. So that's important. But another strategy would be to get a job at a company in a different role and transfer into something Hadoop related over time. So the good news is that companies that have enough data to actually need Hadoop are big enough that they usually have a lot of different hiring opportunities. There's a lot of different jobs you can get into. So if you can get your foot into one of these companies as a software engineer or a system administrator, just do it. Do what you got to do for that first year to get into the company. But after that first year, try to align yourself with specific projects that move you in the direction that you want to go. So go have lunch with a hiring manager who's hiring people that are managing Hadoop clusters or developing distributed applications. Figure out what it takes to actually get into that person's team, because you'll find it's a lot easier to transfer into a group internally than to get hired directly into it externally. So that's my tip for you for breaking into the industry itself. And with that, congratulations again for making it through this course, and thank you so much for sticking with me through the whole thing. It's been a long journey. I hope you've learned a lot. If you did enjoy the course, please remember to leave a review on the system here if you can. It really helps me out a lot if other students can see that you had a good experience. And if you didn't have a good experience for whatever reason, well, I'm surprised you made it this far, but I am always open to feedback, so seriously, if there's anything that you think I should have improved on in this course, I can. It's just videos. I can go back and re-record them. So if you have feedback for me, feel free to drop me a note, and I am open to constructive feedback and constructive criticism. But if you liked it, please leave a review. I love reviews, so don't forget to do that before you go. So again, thank you so much for going through this whole course with me. We've covered a ton of valuable material, and I hope you really find it valuable, and it kicks off a new stage in your career and even your life. So good luck. Make the best of this knowledge. Use it for good.